Welcome to Colors Delight for Life. It's about life, where we share our experience, strength, and hope to help others so they have a better understanding. Thank you. I'd like to welcome you aboard, Maureen. You'll have to bear with me. I lost my dog today, so.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm very honest about my feelings and what happens. I don't like to necessarily put the burden on you, but it's hard.
No, thanks for sharing. I appreciate that. And I wish there was something I can do for you outside of truly understanding your heartache.
I appreciate what you had to say, because that's what we are about Declares Life, being truthful, compassionate, honest, and I don't hide anything from anybody. So that includes podcast guests. So I'm still here, even despite the circumstances. So.
Wow. Good for you for standing in your power and saying, I'm doing this because this is what I need to do. Good for you.
Maureen, if you'd like to take about a minute to introduce yourself, and then I'll kind of explain things as we go along.
Oh my goodness, introduce myself. There's, I've lived 6 decades and gone through a lot of transition. And because of my life experience and my near-death experience and having the spiritual experience during that near-death experience, I just want to share that with the world to let people know that there's so much more to healing than just healthcare. There's connected to spirit, there's connected to your body, there's understanding emotions, and truly, as you're saying, being honest and authentic with yourself and sharing that with others.
By life circumstances.
Yes, I truly understand that. A month ago, I had a bowel obstruction.
I've had those too.
There's a reason we're connected. My goodness. And you're right. The world doesn't stop. Your business, because I had to be on hold, my business had to stop for a time, cancel appointments, connections, and just take time to just connect to myself, understand what's going on, and start the healing process over again. And that's not always easy. I have written my life history to the best of my ability, and I guess it's somewhat of a memoir. 0. When I was born, within the first few weeks of my life, I was failing to thrive, and they didn't understand why, healthcare professionals. And they put me in hospital and did a spinal tap on me because nothing externally, x-rays, whatever else, whatever tests they had 6 decades ago, didn't reveal anything that they could put their knowledge into or conclusion or diagnosis. And the spinal tap didn't reveal anything out of the ordinary. And so I continued on with my life. I continued to, live, obviously. Being sick was part of my life. As my mom used to call me, I was a sickly child. So from on we go next. 2 years old, they removed my tonsils because I wasn't putting weight on. I wasn't healthy. I wasn't, and they believed back in those days that removing tonsils would increase your appetite. That was the underlying cause for children not eating, because they're inflamed and they're swollen and they're infected and they're stopping you from eating and gaining weight. Well, I then engulfed the blood into my lungs, ended up back in hospital shortly after that with pneumonia. So it's been a continual ongoing illness, one after another. At age 8, I had, an appendicitis and had to have that done. And on we went. And I did spend, as I remember, most of my life not being well, not being able to keep up with the kids, not having energy, feeling achy and uncomfortable. And finally, after many years of asthma, rhinitis, different things going on in my life, I was diagnosed with a rare disorder at 29. And at that point, all the symptoms that I had definitely made sense. I go, okay, now I've got it. I know what it is. I know why I've been suffering. And spent many years having temporal mandibular joint, cranial facial, not necessarily reconstructions, appliances in my mouth to help my jaw and my cranium to align, and the creation of straighter teeth coming out of my jaw area that were impacted, etc., just to be able to live a life where I could eat, where I could function, where I wouldn't have pain. And that was part of this connective tissue disorder that I was diagnosed with at 29. Went on with that for a few years, founded the Canadian Organization for Rare Disorders, because being diagnosed with one, I felt alone. I felt that founding this organization would give me the opportunity and the ability to help others and henceforth help myself. And I did that, and I'm no longer involved. I was put in a place, in a position where I was forced to let it go, holding on for dear life, because I had grown it from a baby stage up into essentially teenage stage, and it was
I know what you're talking about. I started an organization back in my 30s for people with psychiatric disabilities, and because I got sick, I had to let that go, and it was a very hard thing to do. So I can empathize with you as far as that's concerned. It's hard.
It was hard to let something go that I had created and brought to a level where I was getting attention from the governments, from pharmaceutical companies. People were starting to really listen to what I was saying, and supporting me and believing in what I was doing, and getting, hundreds of thousands of people coming to the organization to get information, and then starting to make a huge impact nationally and internationally. It was a wonderful path to follow. However, after I was outside of that organization, I had a desire, well, somewhere in there, I had a desire to create something different in my life. So while I was still within that organization, I had experienced a bowel perforation. It started out as an obstruction. Healthcare professionals were doing all kinds of things to clear what they called was severe constipation, not recognizing that I had an obstruction. Yeah.
I understand I know exactly what you're talking about. Well, we're two peas in a pod.
It sounds like very much. So through what they had done, given me a liquid that caused my bowels to puff up and explode, and all kinds of procedures. And then they discovered I had a perforation. Well, the next thing you know, I had nurses and healthcare professionals around me taking my earrings off, taking my rings off, rushing around. And that's the last thing I remember, because I was septic, very sick.
Guess what? I've been septic 3 times.
Yikes.
Yeah, this is too much. I don't mean to pop in like this.
It's serendipity. It's serendipity.
It definitely is serendipity. So I guess there's a lot of understanding here. So
we get it. And the next thing I remember is waking up the next morning on life support. And I guess I was trying to remove the tube where they had intubated me, so I could tell them that I had to catch a flight that day. And now that I was very sick and in this hospital, having no idea the level of where I was in my life at that point, or trying to live my life or survive through to my life, I wanted to let the airlines know that I needed to cancel my flight. They ended up tying my hands down so that I wouldn't pull that out, because if I did, I would not breathe. Anyway, my husband came in, and I told him what I wanted. And as soon as he says, yeah, I've canceled it, I relaxed. I didn't want to communicate any longer. To this day, I don't know if he had canceled it. All I know is that his words helped me feel okay and comfortable. They had told my husband and our 2 children, who were 8 and 5 at the time, that they needed to come in and say goodbye. They gave me 24 hours to live. I had died on the operating table. That's when I had that near-death experience and went to the other side and saw my grandma, who I never really knew on this earth. She was there. behind me, her hand on my shoulder. We were both looking out to the earth, or to outside the spirit world, into this world. And I had this knowing that my children were going to be okay. Of course, I didn't know at the time that I would have the opportunity to remain on this earth to raise them into adulthood. And went on like that for a while. Again, I didn't know the level of severity that I was living in. I didn't realize how very sick I was. I'm glad I didn't. I fought for my life. And 2 weeks later, I was put into a private room where I was laying in the bed and praying and just saying, I'm done. I can no longer do this. I can no longer fight. I'm giving up. I just want this done. And a spirit appeared.
And you probably were extremely frustrated.
Oh, I was done fighting for my life. It was so hard, exhausting physically, emotionally. It was hard.
You sometimes, just to kind of reflect back on things, you just feel like you come to the end of the rope, and it's kind of like, where do I go from here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I was done going anywhere. I was prepared to let it go. And then that spirit appeared in my room. And just a caveat here, I lived for 40 years of my life in my left brain, primarily looking at the world, understanding the world, doing whatever I needed to do in this world based on linear and logical thinking. I didn't understand intuition. I come to realize now that I utilized it many times. Founding that organization was 100% intuitive, because I never went to university to get my degree to learn how to do that, nor did I get any education or even any direction from anybody. I just knew what needed to be done. That was my intuition.
I very well understand, because that's how this business is run, by intuition. Nobody gave me an instruction book, but you know what? It's worked out. It is growing and changing, and sometimes that is the best guide. It's, to me, just a caveat is that I sometimes think it's God telling us what we need to do, in a way, as long as we listen, put our head and heart together.
Oh, I agree completely. It is that divine presence that has guided me in so many ways. And moving on to outside of the Organization for Rare Disorders, where it is an organization that primarily supported individuals that were ill with these rare disorders. And I looked outside the organization, outside myself, outside anybody, to try and find those cures and research. And once I was able to step away from that, I desired to find something new in my life. And after having that near-death experience, there was a reason I was here. There was a reason that I still remained on this earth, in this body, and alive. I knew that I needed to change something within me. And I did. I connected with a woman who became my coach and taught me how to connect my head to my heart, helped me understand how emotions get stuck in your body. And I just grew and evolved from there to where I'm here today. And I continue. I've had 2 bowel obstructions in the last 8 months because of a stricture that has formed due to the resection after the colostomy because of the bowel perforation. So I have the stricture, which means I have a narrowing of the colon. And, food does not pass by there very easily. So
Well,
I had to
I,
look
I
at.
I had a couple in one year too. So, boy, this is just serendipity all over the
It
place.
is, isn't it? Yes, isn't that amazing?
Yes,
So
it's quite amazing.
lots of learning, lots of reflection. Oh, and then before that, here I need to probably write this down and put little highlights. Just about 2 years ago now, this October, I fell down the stairs and broke my lower back. So, I have my disc, and one of my discs is like 5 centimeters back, and I've got a squished sciatic nerve. And so I deal with that. So my goal, my dream, my purpose is to share with everyone and anyone who wants to listen and learn that we can experience physical illness. It's all about learning how we deal with it, how we understand it. After the after the back injury, I really truly understand that pain exists on many levels, just not physical. After this last obstruction, I came to realize all the blessings that I have in my life, and more so, and how much I appreciate how far I've come and where I've come from. And my goal here is to say that please, please do not stuff those emotions in your body on an ongoing daily, yearly basis, because in the end, your body's going to start screaming at you. Your body's going to start telling you through sensation, pain, disease, to pay attention, to connect to those emotions and learn how to release them. So I'm here to say, don't allow that to happen to you, to anybody out there, so that you can remain healthy for as long as you are on this earth in this physical body, and don't have to experience pain and disease. Recognize it before you end up on life support like I did.
Is there anything else that happened in your 30s as far as that is concerned?
In my 30s, that's when I raised my children. I had my first, well, it's ours. I'm still married to the same guy, and it's our kids. I had my first child at 33, and what a blessing. I was so ready for it. And yeah, and then we had our second one when I was 36, just about 37. It was an absolute wondrous time of my life to become a mother, to fall in love with other people outside my husband, to raise these children, to watch them grow, connect with the community as I connected with them, be part of their school system, and learn to be open and understanding who they were as people, as young people. And yeah.
Is
So
there anything else that things have happened in your 30s that you overcame, or that was a challenge for you?
Not that I can think of in my 30s.
Well, let's move into our 40s.
That's when I had the bowel perforation.
That's where you had your bowel preparation, and that was happening. So, does that pretty much sum up your 40s and stuff like that?
I would say that is, yeah, very much sums up my 40s, because into my 50s, that's when I changed careers, and I'm a trained and certified logistics coordinator and a licensed customs broker. So I went back into that. I thought, well, I'll go back into being a logistics coordinator. And I did that for 8 months and hated it because that was not my soul's purpose. It was no longer my soul's purpose. As much as I enjoyed it when I was in my 20s, I did not enjoy it when I was in my 50s. So that is when my huge transition happened in my life, when I chose to do something different, to change my outcome in my life. And heading into my early 60s, I went through many years with a life coach to teach me head, heart, body, emotions, connecting to self, being accountable, taking accountability, truly learning about me and myself, and then understanding how everything and the people around me affects me. And then in my early 60s, I learned how to love me, love myself, and understand that it's safe to love myself. And then I founded my company. So I wanted to share my message.
Well, go ahead and explain what your company is, how it was founded, and and kind of go through that. A lot of people like to understand that too.
Okay.
Because, your purpose and a lot of things in your big why come from that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I founded Head to Heart because that's exactly what I learned, how to get out of my head and connect to my heart. And this came about after I trained as a Heal Your Life teacher and coach which is based on the philosophy of Louise Hay.
I know who Louise Hay is. So yeah, I've
Yeah.
read, I think, one of her books.
Yes, I actually read one of her books before I even took the classes and the course to become that licensed and certified teacher and coach. So that's where it started, becoming certified and licensed. And then from there, because I had the credentials, I decided to found my my company, Head to Heart, so that I could share my message, my experience, and my heart's message to the world. And that's what I have been doing for just over 2 years. And I've written probably 80 blogs sharing my message. Definitely, posting them on social media, which is a changing landscape as we speak.
Oh yeah, it changes quite frequently.
Right. And
Even the
learning.
psychology of it.
Yes. I've had to learn technology. Here I am, considered somewhat of a dinosaur, learning new technology. So I learned a lot about technology, how to do what I need to do to get my message out to the world.
Exactly.
The best part for me during COVID was connecting on an international basis. I loved that opportunity because I don't believe that sharing my message locally is going to benefit enough people to really see how they can change their lives also. So that's what I loved COVID. I wrote 15 blogs during COVID, based on resilience. And that was my way of coping within the circumstances that I found myself and what I felt others were also feeling.
And looking at where you came from, I very much understand because my business was born during COVID and I have 2 Filipino employees who work for me, and things have grown exponentially and such like you. And we have podcasts going, blogs on all the social platforms. It is quite a machine. I shouldn't call it a machine. It's getting our message out.
Yes,
It
yes, yes.
it has. I jokingly say that God's my CEO and I'm just a partner, and my ego is easing God out. That lets me know to keep my ego where it belongs in check. Doesn't mean that we don't have an ego or
Oh, for sure.
pride in what we do, but
Mm,
just like you, hearts are a big deal. I have hearts are my trademark in my business, and it seems like
mm.
hearts are a trademark in your business
They
too.
are. It's, I have this behind me, and the purple is, my passion, and that's the color with my company is the purple. And my logo is a heart, and inside's a head. So it's the Head to Heart. And I would love to somehow incorporate this behind me. However, this is what I have right now, and I'm working with it, and I'm okay with what I've got.
You do the best job you can do, and that's all you can do. And
That's
just be who you are and not what everybody else thinks you should be.
I have given that up a long time ago. It's like, this is who I am. Accept me for who I am. First of all, though, I need to accept me for who I am. And then
Exactly.
the world can accept me for who I am or not. That's their choice. It's okay. Not
Well,
everybody has to like me. I'm
just
okay with that.
just one key thing in marketing nowadays, being authentic is part of good marketing, of being truly who you are. A lot of women have actually given up makeup, given up other things. There's some things we'll be talking to you after the podcast that you get for free. On my journey, I've come to realize how much it's taught me about myself running a business and all the different skills, and it helped me see about accountability, and
Mm,
you can probably agree with me on this point, being accountable to myself and others. I see that in you about the
mhm.
issue. We go through this journey of our life, and then we finally come out to the end where we're doing this, and then we finally realize, guess what? I can be accountable.
I learned that, I guess, when did I do it? In my 40s. Yeah. When I went off to when I was, it was in my 50s when I pursued an outside of the logistics coordinator. I decided that I wanted to support individuals with developmental disabilities. I felt I could really offer that sector what I had learned being in the rare disorder sector. I thought I could really help and support the individuals affected by whatever disabilities they have, along with their families, the organization, and the staff. So I did that in my 50s.
Yeah.
And I loved it because for me, that was a complete circle where I founded the Canadian Organization for Rare Disorders. I put policies, procedures in place. I collaborated with many physicians. I did all the things on a logistical level that I knew. And I really thought I understood what the individuals affected by these rare disorders and their families needed. I truly did not. Not until I started supporting these individuals that had developmental disabilities, and the majority of them had rare disorders that were so debilitating that they needed to have physical supports in place to help them live their lives. And I was that one of the many supports. And it was a complete, that full circle. It was like, I now get it. I now understand it.
Just because you have disabilities, it doesn't mean we can't do things or get or have a life.
That's
Because
right.
too many people think they label you, and you probably can agree with that. There's too many
Yep.
labels running around.
Oh, it's just horrible. I look at these individuals that I supported and many others that they have unique learning abilities. The
Mhm.
problem is society doesn't know how, where, and what they can do for them to help them to enhance, to grow into their unique learning abilities. I've seen it, I watched, and I go, oh my goodness, that person could be doing this, that person could be doing that. Wow, look at, they missed out on that opportunity. This person has this amazing math ability, this person has this amazing understanding of energy. Like it's just our educational system cannot take what they would call these square pegs and put them into these round circles because they don't fit. If you don't fit into the educational circles, what they've created, then you don't fit, you don't work, you're outside of that. And
I,
it's unfortunate because we miss
I
so.
jokingly say that our educational system is made for the Industrial Revolution to turn out robots,
Yep.
but it has not changed.
Nope.
And a lot of folks are avoiding going to college nowadays because of the debt and everything
Yeah.
else. And there's a lot of things you can learn to have a great life without going to school. And I've come to learn that anything is doable and learnable if you're willing to put in the work.
Well, it's interesting. All those people going to college and getting those lovely, wonderful degrees on all levels of degree and all different types of degrees base their knowledge and learning on someone else's system. And so far, and one of my areas that I'm working on right now is I consider myself, I say hashtag Changemaker, because I changed the whole rare disorder, landscape in Canada. We now need to look at changing the healthcare system because it is not working. In Canada, I co-wrote Canada's first orphan drug policy. However, in Canada, because we don't have a whole lot of people, it was too expensive for them to implement it because they couldn't find a way to finance it. I mean, we have like 37 million people in Canada. There's just not enough money to go around. However, I'm on the other side of that going, we don't need drugs. We don't need research. Yeah, we do need healthcare. There's no question. And I look at everything that we do in this world as holistic, that WHOLE, holistic.
Definitely.
Look at
Mind,
everything.
body, emotions, spirit.
Yes, mind, body, connection, spirit, soul. They need emotional intelligence. And I love your advocacy policy. That sounds beautiful. We need to understand emotional intelligence. Healthcare professionals, it is important for them to understand their own emotional intelligence so that they can then understand it within their patients.
Basically,
That's an essential next step, I believe.
Well, it was written out of my experiences, the advocacy training program, of that, you know, there was programs out there, but they were too complicated. And this was something that can be taught in 2 or 3 hours
Oh, wow.
and you know, about communication.
Yes.
There was a thing in there, I jokingly say, how to talk to bureaucracies.
Yeah, you have to figure it out. It's interesting.
Yeah. But 20 years later, I see all this happening. I gave it away for nothing. A lot of folks say I gave away a big deal, but the idea of it was to give, not to take, to see.
Give so someone could gain.
And I'm thinking they never taught advocacy skills to doctors, to nurses, social workers. And that's a lot of what they do. And if they got the skills sets to do it and realize they got something simple, and it all boils down to effective communication in a non-confrontational way, you know, of not just budding.
I agree completely. My last experience with the bowel obstruction was horrific. I think that's a pretty nice name to put to it. I went in there knowing I had another obstruction, because I mean, after you have about 5, this is probably my 5th one in my lifetime.
You get to know.
You know what they are, you know the feeling, you know what's happening. And because I'm so intuitively connected to my body, I knew what was going on.
Right.
And I went in there by ambulance because the pain was so out of control and I was just in agony. I get in there. Our healthcare system up here in Canada, especially Alberta, is overwhelmed with people coming into the emergency departments because our premier of the province has decided to cut back on, because it's publicly funded, right? Decided to cut back on the wages of physicians and nurses. So we've had an exodus, you may have heard this, exodus of people leaving our province.
That's hard.
So where, for example, there was 158 patients coming into emergency during a 12-hour shift, there's now 258 patients coming into emergency, and those 100 are patients that do not have access to a general practitioner, that need general practitioner advice or letters written or notes done or prescriptions, which is not what ER is for. So I got in there on one of the busiest days of the week. I understand Sunday's a very busy day. Right? That's what it was. I felt like I was treated like a 63-year-old woman who was experiencing severe constipation. That's how I was treated. And I knew I had an obstruction again. I knew it. I knew the feeling, the sensation. I knew what was happening. I could feel my bowels trying to push past that obstruction to have a bowel movement, and it wouldn't pass by it. I could feel it. And then just before I saw the doctor, it wasn't going down. It turned around and went the other way. I felt my bowels jump and reverse and go the other way. That's when sepsis starts to happen. They refused to give me a CAT scan. They gave me a flat x-ray and said, you don't have an obstruction. You cannot determine if you have an obstruction by a flat x-ray.
Oh, yeah. It takes.
You need to do a CAT scan to see the soft tissue to determine if there's and they said, well, we won't give you another CAT scan because it's really bad radiation over lifetime. I'm going, well, instead, you'll give me some medication that will cause me to have, to kill me. Like, you're going to give me a life-threatening, they were trying to give me a laxative that said right on the bottle, if you suspect an obstruction, do not take this. Well, guess what happened the last time I had a perforation? That exact same bottle was given to me to take because they said you're really constipated and you've got a lot of feces up really high and you need to have a bowel movement. I'm going, I can't. It's not passing the obstruction. So they treated me. And then when I spoke to my GI specialist a week later, I intuitively knew what I had to do because he told me what to do and I did it. He says, when you feel this, you need to not drink, you need to not eat, and you need to get up and walk around. I said, that's exactly what I did. Exactly to the T. Got up and walked around. I didn't eat, I didn't drink. I got to the hospital. They put a liter of fluid into my veins and pumped it in so fast you could hear it pumping. What happens when you have an obstruction is your bowels are no longer absorbing anything. And that fluid is just blowing them up.
Right.
So they put me in a life-threatening situation. And you know what the physician kept saying to me every time he came in to tell me the results of my blood tests and urine tests, because those are going to tell you have an obstruction. That's being very sarcastic. He said, I'm busy, I don't have time, and he would leave. Every time he came into my room. Every time.
Some of this healthcare stuff having to deal with multiple medications and everything, from your point of view, can be very, this is for our audience too, that it can be very frustrating. And I think there's a lot of folks, whether you be in the US or Canada, there's a lot of frustration with the healthcare system. Yes. In fact, I just got done going through 2 physicians that didn't like my Bengay. They got rid of me because I use you know what Bengay is, right?
I do, yes.
And they got rid of me because they didn't like the smell of my Bengay. And then I had another chiropractor that talked to me about using Bengay, and then said my emotional support dog that just is passing on, couldn't come in. And I just said, I exited and got somebody else. And
find someone that's going to support you. Find that person that's willing to be on your side.
And you know what's great? The one I found is 3 minutes from my house.
Perfect.
And they already knew the person at my attorney's office, because this is the result of a car accident. I've been hurt this last one, and it was worlds of difference. And I decided after the 3rd time of hearing about, oh, we don't like the smell of your Bengay, I'm just going, is outrageous, I think, at least in my opinion. How many older folks use Bengay? Yeah.
It's Bengay. So what? Was that, and what I look at is, I believe that was a lie. I believe they use that as an excuse because they look at you as what's called the unrewarding patient. They couldn't cure you and they couldn't make you better.
I literally called the chiropractor's office who didn't like my Bengay. I says, well, you didn't like my dog. You didn't like my Bengay. I cancel all appointments for these particular reasons. And I says, do not contact me anymore. And I hung up. It was about a 30-second call. And I think I had made their head spin, because I thought, what, they really needed to know that they had lost business, and they can continue to lose business. Yeah. And I don't care who they are or what they are, that I'm not going to be. The one thing, and you seem like the same kind of person, is sometimes we need to take a stand and say, hey, enough is enough. We're going to get the care we need.
I did. I filed a complaint with the hospital.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good.
And I know that I am a very good advocate, because that's what I used to do with individuals that have those developmental disabilities. And I love advocating. I've done that for my mom, who's now passed, my dad, who's currently in assisted living. I'm an advocate at heart. And my goal is to help people get what they need for themselves to live their best lives. That's my objective.
And so I'm ourselves too.
However, what about other people who do not have the drive and desire that I have?
Yeah.
To say, you're not going to treat me like this, and this is what needs to be done instead of. What about those people who sit back and just are devastated by how they were treated, misdiagnosed, mistreated, disrespected? What about those people that don't know how to stand up for themselves? That's what I think. How can this be? So I filed a complaint with the hospital.
I've been a mental health advocate for 25 years. Everything I've ever done, you'll be getting some books and stuff I've written.
Oh, lovely.
It's been a great conversation.
Sure.
But I'd like for you, for the audience's sake, to give 3 takeaways on, 3 major points that you think would be of really good use for them.
One is to learn how to understand and connect to self. Truly love yourself and know it's safe enough to do so. And speak your truth. Speak it from your heart.
Excellent. We've had such a candid conversation, and it's been wonderful to be talking with you. Thank you for coming to Claire's Delight for Life. It's about life. I hope you enjoyed our podcast as much as I did, and I hope you have a great day. I'd love to let you know about a new book coming out, and it's a great help for those who, and including you, to deal with life. It's called Overcoming Depression, Anxiety, PTSD, and Stress. Who couldn't use a book like this? And it's a great program. And the book and audio are going to be made available on Audible and Amazon. We also have we are on all the social platforms, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Pinterest, and TikTok, and just about anything else you can think of. With all that being said, we also have some other wonderful books that you can get on Amazon and Audible and on our website too, which is declaresdelightforlife.com. Again, that's declaresdelightforlife.com. And those books are Clutter to Declutter. And another one is 28 Days to Declutter Your Mind. The other one is Secrets to Declutter Your Mind Now. These were written with lots of love and experience, these books, to really help you on your journey in life, because I know, having gone through so much in my life, these are written from the heart to see that you too can succeed despite your situations. And I just want you guys to know that we do have a 180-day guarantee that if any of these don't work for you, you can just email us or at support@declaresdelightforlife.com, and we will refund your money with no questions asked, because we believe that a no questions asked guarantee is the best way to have a great relationship with you. And with that said, you know what? I hope you enjoyed this episode of Declares Delight for Life. It's about life, sharing your experience, strength, and hope.